we do have to pour one out because some of our content team at the Boyscast has been let go.
Oh man, it's so upsetting.
60 employees or so at Vice Magazine,
AKA the Boyscast. They don't know they're working for us. They're subcontractors.
60 employees at Vice fired after writing some of the best articles known to man.
You know what it is?
A travesty.
I think what happened is they figured out all the different ways to fit a dildo inside of you. They go, they were like, you know what? I think we did it.
Yeah.
There's no more articles left about how many dildos can you safely fit inside your anus.
It's a mess out there. Do you remember when our buddy did the thing at Vice? He said that Shane Smith comes on the teleprompters like Zordon from the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And he goes, everyone's sitting there, and then it goes, and Shane Smith comes, he broadcasts himself on all the TVs, and he said that he goes, we won't air it which buddy, but he goes, all the other places are making shit, but Vice, what we're making, not shit. And apparently he just kept saying that. He goes, some of these other, these news stations, these television stations, shit. Vice, not shit. He just kept
not shit.
He said he was really strong.
Really had to emphasize that it's not shit.
Then he signs off. But I decided that since one of the funniest things too is that people always actually think that I work at Vice.
I know that's the best thing. You go, what the hell? Vice is making good stuff.
Yeah. So when I was,
do you think these ladies are going to learn to cook? Oh, by the way, I did because in the comments it's mostly ladies. It's a she session.
Well, that's the thing.
This is the she session. That's what makes it really disgusting.
I couldn't
fire some men.
And then
give those women the men's jobs. Like it's insane what they're doing at Vice.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at Vice and be like, fire the dudes, hire more boobs. That's my policy. Boobs over dudes.
No, promote the boobs. You promote them to the men's job because the men's have better jobs than them, obviously.
If you ask me, those fucking dudes are fucking boobs.
Boobs of the week.
I want to throw my hat in the ring with some ideas. How about this? So, because they need, they're going to need content, and whatever reason they decide to fire people, I'm sure the business is booming as always. I can't imagine in any sort of way that their digital team wasn't producing maximum revenue.
Huge amounts of money.
I think they were like one above Amazon in terms of like revenue last year. Digital content
somewhere
team.
in that. Yeah. They're, I think, one of the most valuable private companies in the world.
Well, I'm just going to, I want to throw some Kickstarters out there. Just if you are listening and you work at Vice and you're looking to hire people, I will go trans for the job. And how about this? Why chair legs are demisexual phobic? That's
pretty
one
good,
that I came up with. Hockey pucks are racist and urinal pucks are sexist. That's one that
urinal pucks should also be racist because they're white.
Urinal pucks can be blue though. Which
right. I was thinking of the white ones.
But also it's sexist because blue's like the male color. They should be pink. And bestiality's the new black. That's a fun one.
Black's the new bestiality.
Black's the new bestiality.
You can kind of get a 2-for-1 there if you just switch them up.
And I have sex with babies, but I'm not a monster.
It's funny if someone pitched that.
I have sex with newborns, but I'm not a monster.
Someone probably has pitched that advice, and that wasn't a fireable offense. But like,
they're like, we're not.
They got laid
there.
off for some other bullshit reason.
He goes, we're not there quite yet, but we're come back in a month.
Yeah.
And last one, my two dads are transphobic, so luckily, Vice, the employees at Vice that were fired, the skills are very transferable, and that's something that if you are, if you lost your blogger job, luckily, I would say that I would, take a couple weeks off, you know what I mean, probably for mental health. But after that, all the skills that you learn at blogging, you can maybe be like a doctor. People come in and they say, something's wrong with my knee. And they're like, well, yeah, society's bigotry is the problem with your knee.
Yeah. Oh, big time.
They could be an accountant, maybe. You go, hey, you come in, they say, oh, what happened with my money? And they say, it's all gone. And you say, why? They go, it's called reparations, pal. And reparations to women.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe an actuary.
Actuary?
I say that actuaries and bloggers have similar skill sets.
Yeah, you're basically accounting, but one is accounting for society and the other is accounting for insurance purposes, You are, you're on the abacus of society, just moving these little beads over to the racist side.
So this is what they say. They laid off 155, which includes Refinery 29 that's their company, I guess, is laying off 155 employees, or more than 5% of the total worldwide hit count, in response to revenue declining stemming from the coronavirus pandemic. So it's the pandemic's.
It's the pandemic's fault.
Why would digital?
Which and whose fault is the pandemic?
Well,
Trump.
yeah,
So
Trump,
basically,
white
she.
people.
Yeah, but like she lost her job.
Man.
Like they're all just losing their job because of Trump.
Why would it's a pretty agreed upon thing that digital properties did better in the pandemic.
Yeah, like again, you have to. It's like you're fucking on the, like you get teamed up with the best players, and then all of a sudden you have all these advantages, and then you lose, and you got to make something. I don't know. It's the pandemic.
It just seems like the
Couldn't
crazy,
focus. The
you can't
pandemic
blame
was-
your digital properties on success on the pandemic.
Also, it's like it's pretty known that before the pandemic, it's not everybody was like super bullish on digital properties.
Well, that's what I mean. It was the worst business.
Yeah, it was the worst business pre-pandemic.
But it had a little moment where see these places are, first of all, it's like the worst business model. How many big companies like NBC tried CISO, like all of
forget about Quibi.
Quibi, every single one of these places were like, hey, you know what we'll do? We'll start a property where you look at your phone and watch our things. And they're like, yeah, we already have like YouTube and Instagram. We already do that. And you're like, yeah, but what if you paid for one? And everyone's like, why?
Yeah.
And then these places, they get into they're all like trend tracing, which is, fairly reasonable. That's what, companies do. If you're making entertainment, like big companies, of course, you're going to be on top of the trends. But the problem is that this trend is you can't escape it. So if you get into the, chairs are racist trend.
Yeah.
And you hire all people that are experts in, saying that chairs are demisexual phobic. Then when you go, oh, you know what? This thing's drying up a bit. We'll move on. They go, move on from helping?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we're making a division shift into
And what are we going to do?
white supremacy.
Yeah, we're going to just tell the news like a bunch of fucking Nazis do?
So they can't get out of this thing. Like Vice has shifted what they are 2 or 3 times. This was obviously the worst iteration, but you can't leave this iteration.
No. The realistic outcome is you just do this until you implode like a black hole. Just
It is,
implode on yourself.
it's the equivalent of the bleed it dry, where you just like, let's just milk every last little bit of.
Well, how are you
juice.
supposed to be Vice and be like, hey, we're Vice, and we're what we are now, and then we're like, you know what, we just want to be like
A fun company again.
fun company. We're gonna go back to being like cool Vice, and people are like, I don't.
Well, then you have people at the place come up and they're like, hey, so I wrote this article about oppression. They're like, yeah, we're kind of going a different direction. We're just
we're going back to rape is cool. So if we could write some stuff up about that,
so
how there's no such thing as date rape, and they're like, oh.
Okay, so in a statement, Vice's union, which represents the editorial and other employees, we understand that the entire news industry is hurting, Vice union statement said, because Trump's gone. We do not understand why Vice chose to lay off so many of our colleagues in the middle of a global pandemic instead of exhausting all options to save the jobs.
I mean, they've been saving your jobs for 5 years. You have all been redundant for 5 years, and things were just good enough where they're like, yeah, we'll keep you around, and I guess.
One of the problems with the unions in creative fields, it's like, there is places where unions are good, and especially when there's like danger involved. You know what I mean? But the problem with unions in like creative fields is, especially like ones like this, is they make it so. I'll talk about Vice specifically, but when they have blogger unions, right? What they do is they basically they kind of like socialize everything, where it's like they turn jobs that like some people are way better than other people into, in comedy in Canada is very like you work your way up, you work at this club. Like it's not like who's popping and who's killing the hardest if you're at like, for example, Yuck Yucks. It's like there is a seniority of this guy's been here longer.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Whereas for something like this, where it's, who's the best at making the like cheers are racist articles, it really is like who's getting the most clicks.
Yeah,
Who's
exactly.
this-
Nobody's getting preferential treatment for how it's like.
Right, but
being
they
shown.
have like, if you work here for this many years, you get this much of a raise. So what it does is the best people, it sort of blocks you off from giving them like double the pay. Like you can't just, for example, be like, this person's making way more money, let's give them a huge raise. It's kind of how in construction, it's very like the one guy's like working an extra minute for his break, and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, totally,
like,
yeah.
are you trying to?
Yeah, you're trying to
make us-
fucking. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
hey, union, you're not allowed to work for the next 15 minutes. It's like someone sparked a cigarette. We're all on break.
Yeah, we all smoke now. Everybody, we smoke now.
That's part of the union.
Part of the union. Grab your smokes.
The union rules. Everyone needs to smoke. So that's what it does. So what happens over the course of a long time in places like this is, and again, whether maybe you think if you run this company, maybe this is what you want. So it's like, it's just a value system thing to some degree, but it's the best people. If you're actually someone that's like flourishing in an environment like this, it's harder to move up and get like the big money. So it's very hard with like a big union system to go, hey, this guy who's been here 3 years is crushing it so hard, we're going to give him $100,000 a year, even though everyone else makes $30,000 a year. It's almost like impossible, right?
Also, these people don't really create any value for their company. Like they're not like, if someone,
I'm sure there's some star blogger
I'm sure there are, and maybe
this guy cannot stop getting
But
clicks.
they didn't. But the thing is like they didn't shut down. Like a lot of these people got shit canned from Refinery 29. Like it's not like Refinery 29's gone. They just were like, we don't need any of these unnecessary articles that don't do well. I'm sure they kept. If you're cranking out articles that are doing really well, I doubt they fire you. These people were just doing. Nobody wanted any of their shit.
Yeah, but
There was no value created.
well, that's what happens is because all the people that are crushing it, just they leave for, because the only way to get a bigger pay off the bat is to leave to a new place, like make a big move. And then you kind of left with all the, average performers.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you get such wild articles, because when you're not that great, it's like you have to use the dark arts of just like everyone knows probably in that field that the most salacious stuff is just the most like basic bullshit. Like white people should die. Like,
Yeah,
that
of
article's
course.
going to do better than
Of
like a
course.
nuanced take, right?
Yeah.
So I think that probably the smartest people somewhat probably know in any like article or any news sort of oriented thing know how to a little bit like spice on like
Of
a little bit of
course.
both.
I mean,
but the
editors
bad
even-
people just only know how to do that. That's the only way they know how to get
Well,
clicks.
it's the trick. They were never good to begin with, and it's this trick they figured out as a bit of a shortcut.
And they abuse it.